What's up everyone, Tom here from Metalloud, and I want to talk about something today, gaming related. Now, you probably have seen or heard me mention the website SIFTD.net. I've definitely been involved with that site for quite some time now, since its inception, and it's something that I really enjoy and really support 100%. I even ran a contest a while back offering a free year subscription to the winner, and I have some kind of bad news to report in that the site itself apparently is not doing too great for various reasons. Now, they posted on their site about how they really kind of have to, at this point, it's really do or die, that they need to figure out something and some way to gain more revenue and more money in general to keep the site alive and keep it afloat. And I really would like to see this site succeed for a lot of reasons. First of all, I mean, it's one of the few communities I found within gaming that actually doesn't suck. I mean, most of the time when you go on, all you get are trolls and just generally obnoxious, annoying people. I mean, even on various tech websites, it's kind of the culture that you're going to find, whether it's IGN or GameSpot or wherever. I mean, even back in the day of Game Trailers, which was probably my favorite community for various reasons, there were a ton of obnoxious people that I'm really glad I don't really encounter anymore online. But Sifted is different. It's done a great job at kind of combating that. A lot of it has to do with the fact that it is a paid site. For the most part, there are free options available, but for the most part, it is a paid site. So I think a lot of that has kind of controlled the issues that a lot of other sites kind of unfortunately fall victim to. But it's also a different clientele. I mean, I think that the people who are attracted to the site like this are just not, they're looking for something that's a little bit more mature, a little bit more reasonable in terms of the community and the discussion. So again, unfortunately, this site is not doing too well, and I really don't want to see it go. I think that it has a great model, a great business model. I think that it's a great idea for a site. So they've been kind of looking for ideas as far as what they can do to not go under, and what they can do to increase the revenue and to actually get something done with what they have. So these are a few of my ideas as far as what they can do. Now, a lot of these are ideas that have been suggested by other people, so I know I'm not alone in this thinking that there's things that definitely need to happen in order for this site to actually succeed. And I'm going to be as brutally honest as I can about the quality of things and really what I think needs to change and what the site really isn't doing well. So I apologize if I come off as a little bit harsh, but it's only because I love this site so much and I don't really want to see it go anywhere. But I do think that there are changes that need to be made. So just here are a few of my suggestions of what I think Sifted.net can do. The first thing that I feel like SIFTD.net really needs to do is to encourage community involvement. I mean, right now with everything that they've got blogs, they've got forums going on, there's a really good commenting system, which I really think they did a decent job with, but there needs to be more. I mean, everything that they've done is basically par for the course on this. And one of the things that helps sites survive so much is the community involvement. You know, it's one thing for you to have content and for people to come to the site, but they're not going to stay if they don't feel like there's any reason to stay or to get involved. They might click on something, they might come to your site, but they're not going to keep coming back, and they're not going to stay, and they're not going to engage. And that's where the money is. It's with the engagement. So I really think they need to do more. One of the things that I really loved about GameTrailers.com, and one of the things that kept me coming back, was the community and the way that they encourage the community to get involved with things. I mean, part of that was the system they had of the GTD, which definitely should not and is not coming back, thankfully, but it was one of the things that was there to kind of, that what they had over other sites that really kind of kept you coming back and kept you doing things and becoming involved with it. One of the other things that was kind of tied into it, but can be done separately without the involvement of money, is virtual money, is the fact that the blogs especially, there wasn't just you didn't just see the latest blogs. There were featured blogs, there were featured user movies, and I'm not expecting SIFTD to do user movies because that's a whole nother mess, but they already have a blog system in place. It wouldn't be that hard to showcase some of these blogs, especially some of the ones that are very well done that I've seen from people that I really think need to be recognized and can kind of give people a sense of accomplishment and pride, and a sense of, hey, I could probably do that, or it'd be really cool to see my blog up there, and I'm going to work hard on this because I want to show other people what I can do and what I think about gaming and things like that. And that's something I think would really kind of help enhance the site as well. And that's something I think that the groundwork's already there for them. They already have a section, but it's, unless you're clicking on community and then going and looking through things, it's also kind of bland, which I'll get to in a little bit, but there's no highlighting of it. There's nothing like that. And that's something I really think that they need to do, particularly with the blogs. Now, they've also done a decent job at highlighting user content, like the podcast Reload, for instance, or the, forgive me if I get this wrong, but the Big Bada Boom or Bang podcast as well, that are done by SIFTD users, not necessarily by the SIFTD staff themselves. And I think that's something that's also important, is a lot of the community are doing big things within gaming and things like that, and I think encouraging that and promoting that more to show, especially because there is a bit of a lack of content on this original content on the site, which is another thing I'll get to. But I think using the giving the users some recognition for what they're doing, I think would go a long way to keep people coming back and encouraging people from doing more. I think that would definitely be a good way to get people to join the site, to see the site, and it also acts as a promotion for the site as well, because these users are promoting them across Twitter, across Facebook, on YouTube, and other things, which also is going to get people to go to the SIFTD site if they know that they can get this on SIFTD.net. And I really think that's going to be a really big thing for the site if they encourage users and user-made content and highlight the best of it. You know, you're already curating the content from across the web of, you know, big name sites, but there's littler sites out there as well that are doing things. There's, again, the users on the site, encourage that, make them feel like they are truly part of this site itself, and you're going to see a influx of people trying to get in on that, and an influx on quality as well, and keep and maintain that quality bar of people. If they know that if they do a good job on something, that their video or their podcast or their whatever is going to get highlighted by the site, they're going to attempt to do a good job on it. You're gonna really, forgive me for this, but you're gonna sift out the weaker podcasts, weaker blogs, you know, people who are just spitting things out just to get recognized, if you're recognizing what is actual quality. And I think that would definitely go a long way, and I think it is something that SIFTD needs to do. The other thing that SIFTD.net really needs to do to get users to actually join the site and to stay on the site is to produce more original content, which I understand it is an expense in itself, but it's something that does pay off. As of right now, there's not a whole lot that the site has to offer in terms of original content. And I know that's not the main focus of the site. It is meant to just basically give you a filter of various content from across the web. It is something that is going to get people to pay for things, and people are looking for value. Now, I think there's value in what the site does in itself, and I have no problem paying for what it actually does on its own, but I'm not most people. Most people are really going to look at it and say, well, I'm not paying for this, what's essentially a glorified RSS feed. I'm going to, you know, use the free option, and I'm not doing anything else. And people have admitted to that straight up on the forums and on the comments. There's people who have straight up admitted that they're just there freeloading because they don't see the point of actually paying for it. And those are the people that we need to get to realize, and some of them probably never will. Some of them are never going to pay for it, and that's just who they are. But there's others out there who may be on the fence about whether or not they could commit to actually paying for it, a site like this, but there's nothing there that actually draws them to it. There's no real original content, especially video content. We have Pactor Factor, we have Game Face, and there's a few various other video series here and there, but they're not consistent, they're not very frequent, and they're not really doing it for the site. I mean, people are looking for, the most popular content, probably top 10 list or top 7 or whatever number you choose, but countdown lists are huge. Those bring people in. Those people keep people engaged in things because everyone likes to give their opinion. Everybody likes to comment on them and say, well, I saw this list and I don't agree with number 4. I don't agree with the ordering of it. But that is, even this negative, it's still keeping people engaged. Reviews are a huge thing, and I know they do the game evals, but there's no video to accompany it, and that's another huge thing. I mean, the video content alone is what gets people clicking. It's what gets people coming back. It's what gets people actually wanting to use the site and to want to stay on the site and to want to pay for the site. And if we get more original content, whether it's coming directly from the staff or if we can find a way to harness the user base of this, and again, I'm sure there's a lot of us on the user base who are fully committed and willing to produce videos, whether it's frequently or whatever, but it's something more than what's on there right now. It's something that could possibly get people to come back to the site and to use the site and to pay for this site. And that's the thing. I think there is a definite missing lack of quality original content on SIFTD.net that's going to actually keep people on the site and using the site. Another thing that SIFTD really doesn't do at this point is promote itself. I mean, if I hadn't followed Shane's Twitter, I probably never would have known the site existed, and it seems to be a reoccurring theme when asked about what are the issues with the site that people have is they don't know what the site is, or that it exists, or what it actually does. I mean, the name is pretty self-explanatory, but once you know what it is, the logo really doesn't tell you what it does or what it is or anything like that. I mean, there's no real promotion of it. The Twitter accounts for SIFTD itself are not really there. I mean, I rarely see anything come from it. There's rarely anything on any kind of social media, any kind of promotion, anything like that. And also, there's no other sites that are talking about this or anything. I mean, just mentioning it on something like a GameSpot podcast or IGN or anything like that, or the Easy A guys, I mean, even just mentioning that would be a huge thing for the site, and it would, I think, get the name out there and get people out there. I mean, I don't know how Shane is with the whole Easy A cast, but at least we know he's friendly with Brandon, and that's something. I mean, I'm sure there's some way to work out something where, even if it's a sponsorship, just to get the name out there, to get something. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing that SIFTD really needs to do, is to just go on a promotional blitz. And I mean, I know Shane has talked about how he doesn't really feel like he wants to, let's, for lack of a better term, whore himself out or sell out or anything like that, but you kind of have to a degree in order to be successful. You're not going to go anywhere without doing that, without going everywhere and anywhere possible to get your name out there and to get people to recognize and to know what you are. And I don't think that SIFTD is doing a good job. I don't think Shane is doing a good job. I don't think anybody else involved with SIFTD is doing a good job with that. I really haven't seen a whole lot that, and this isn't talking about just paid promotion. I mean, that's something that's huge, but understandable. We're trying to do things that are not as costly, but there's a lot you can do for free that would help. I mean, there's connections out there that you're not utilizing. There's connections out there that just simply are not doing anything for you that you really need. You need to cash them in. You need to say, hey, look, can you help me with this? And I know it's not easy. I know it's not pleasant to do all the time, but it's something that needs to be done for the site to succeed and for the site to actually maintain itself. And I think that's huge. I mean, the users who are already there can only do so much to promote it. I mean, we can only talk about it with so much and contact so many people. And I know word of mouth is huge, but there are bigger names out there. I mean, not many of us are well connected, especially within the gaming community, enough to promote this site that it's actually going to bring in the numbers that the site needs. So that's something I really think that Shane in particular needs to work on and needs to do. And it's something that's kind of been promised but never actually delivered on. And really, this is probably the key, the biggest thing that needs to be done, is the promotion. People need to know what is SIFTD, that it even exists before they can even use the site. It's not clear, and I'm not just saying this. Again, these are comments that have been left on the site itself, on forums, on NeoGAF, for instance, or just in general, is people had no idea what the site is and what it does. Next, if SIFTD really wants to survive, and this one's kind of a little more involved, and I know this would take more time and money that it's possible SIFTD simply does not have, and I mean, Brent's done a great job with the site. I mean, it works flawlessly compared to other sites that break down and have bugs and are just disastrous. SIFTD is probably one of the better sites that I've ever used, especially with the amount of users that are actually on there at one time. It runs smoothly. I've never encountered a crash. I've never encountered any kind of real bug or anything like that, and props to him for that, because that's not easy when you're creating an original site like this. And even aesthetically, it looks, I think it looks great. I think that they've done a fantastic job with it. However, it does look a little bit bland, and I think that's something that kind of drives some people away. It also doesn't do a great job, as I mentioned before, as far as highlighting content. It doesn't really highlight original content. I mean, there's the banner up at the top, but there's no real sense of promoting things, and I think that's something that they could do a better job with. I think that the community aspects of it really need to be revamped. I think that's where the focus should be. The main page, I think, doesn't necessarily need to be touched right now. I think that should be a low priority. I think it works as it should. I think it works as it does. I think it is a decent job at doing that, but I think the community aspects really need to be tweaked. For one thing, the commenting is kind of a little bit broken in a sense, where you click on replies and you don't know if the reply is to you or to somebody above you or to what exactly. There's no kind of link to it. You can kind of see the way it steps, and if you follow it, you can kind of get a sense of what comment that is, but overall, it doesn't necessarily do a good job at pointing you to where the replies came from, or seeing a reply to a comment or to a comment of a comment is where you start getting lost and things. And I think that's something that needs to be tweaked a little bit for people, but I think is a low priority. I think the biggest priority is going to be within the forums and with the actual community blogs and things like that. I think that needs a serious overhaul, because again, as I mentioned in the beginning, that's something that's going to keep people actually coming and engaging on the site, is feeling part of the site and feeling part of a community, and giving them a reason to come back other than to just view content. Because if they just view content, they're going to come for 5-10 minutes a day, and they're going to just click on things and then leave. That's it. If you get them engaged, if you get them in the community, if you have them thinking that they are part of something bigger than that, they're going to stay. They're going to be on it for hours at a time. They're going to be doing things and engaging and creating blogs, which is going to get more people there, and it's just a snowball effect. And I think that's something that really needs a priority, is to kind of focus on the aesthetics of the community side of things. Again, the site itself, I think, could use an overhaul aesthetically. I like it personally. I think it works for what it is, but it is a little just bland, I suppose. And I think that's one thing that's kind of turning off other people, is the way it does look. And while I'm a fan of that kind of simple, practical quality of it, not everyone is. And I'm not saying that it needs to go all out and just, create something that's, get a graphic designer in here and do all this, but it could be some sprucing up a little bit, just something that makes it more lively and makes it jump out at people. Is one thing I think kind of needs to be done. If not now, at least at some point in the near future. And like I said, there are priorities to that. I think there's ways to kind of prioritize that, because it is going to cost money. It is going to take a lot of time, and some things may simply not be possible for Brent, or really for anybody, to actually manage, and that's okay. But I think something needs to happen in order to get more users on the site itself. Another thing, point blank, SIFTD needs to change its subscription model. And I think this is something that Shane has actually acknowledged, at least, so there is some hope there, which is that people have been pushing Patreon as a way of supporting the site without necessarily getting a subscription. And I think that's a great way to tier things because some people can't afford the price as it is, or don't want to, or don't see the value in it, or whatever, but may be willing to contribute something. And there's people who can contribute more, but other than donating, really aren't given the option. So if you have a tiered way of setting things up with the subscription, say, you know, if you contribute $4 a month, you get what we get now for the monthly price. If you contribute $10 a month, you get that plus something else. You get $20 a month, you get this plus something else. And even if it's just supplemental, it's still income. It's still something. It's definitely a way of getting more money, and I think that's something that they really need to look into. And also with that, they really need to change the way things are set up now in terms of the free users, especially with the number of people who have just straight up admitted to freeloading on the site and, you know, creating 100 accounts just so they can get around things. And I really think that they need to start tracking IPs and say, okay, well, if you're not going to even sign up for an account, you can click on 5 pieces of content. Otherwise, you know, go to the sites yourself, do it yourself. If you go to, you know, if you at least register a free account, you can get up to, you know, 10 pieces of content a day, or 20 pieces of content a day, whatever you feel the limit is. And at that point, then cut them off and say, you know, to view anything more, you need to be a paid subscriber. And, you know, I'm sure people are going to get around that again, as they already have admitted to it. But if you at least put that limit in there, I think more people are going to be willing to pay, or at least are going to look into paying, or maybe consider it. Or then I think also the people who are just strictly not going to pay, I think are going to kind of fade off, and I think you're going to trim those people out who are essentially just hurting the site. They really aren't contributing anything. They really aren't doing anything for the site. The other thing also with that, with the free users, is put ads on the site. I don't care if they're on the site itself. I don't care if they're on the videos. I don't care if it happens when you click on something. Wherever it is, at least, at the very, very least, for the free users, put ads on the site. Get them. Or if you're not going to put ads on the site, get sponsorships. During Game Face, be able to shout somebody out who paid for a spot, whether it's a company or a brand or an individual person, whatever it is. It's not selling out. It's just survival. It's just business. Get that done. And I think ads are the way to go, especially, again, to kind of weed out the free users who are simply here just to freeload and are not here to actually contribute anything to the site itself. I think that's a way to kind of get money at the same time of, you know, if they're going to be here, if they're going to be doing something, they should at least be making you money with ad clicks, you know, or ad views or whatever. Get that. You know, if you're going to do something, that's definitely something that needs to be done in order for the site to survive. Last but not least, what SIFTD really needs to do to survive, I think at this point, is to pivot. And it's something that happens to almost every site, where it comes a time where you can see what you're doing is not exactly going to work out the way you had planned, and your dreams and hopes need to kind of be tempered a little bit. And at this point, I think that the biggest selling point of SIFTD is the way SIFTD works, its core, the way it goes through and filters. And I know it's done semi-manually as far as filtering out different content from across the web, that it's curated by a few people, but I think at this point they need to get more curators, and I think more topics need to be addressed rather than just gaming. I mean, SIFTD isn't going to survive as simply a gaming website. I think that's a huge thing, and I think gamers are definitely attracted to it, and it is a great platform. I just think that more needs to be done, and I think more can be done with the platform itself. Now, I asked this question to Shane, and at some point early on in the development, I don't know if it was before the site launched or if it was a little bit after, but his response essentially was that they would look into doing this, but I think it's something that at this point needs to happen. And what I mean by that is, I think they need to start curating things from movie sites, from music sites, from other technology sites, for instance, and have a different SIFTD section for everything, for technology, for phone, well, I guess that would cover technology, but for music, for movies, for gaming, each thing needs its own SIFTD, and have curators for each of them, and going through every day and putting up the putting up the content from websites across the site, from across the web. And I really think that's a thing that is going to get more users involved. I mean, once you have those things, you're talking about, okay, now you have the whole movie community, which is huge. You have the whole music community, which is huge. You're gonna have those users coming in and discussing things and commenting things and talking on things, and who are willing to pay. And it's just opening up your user base to tremendously more people. And I think that's something that needs to be done. I really think at this point we need more curators, and it's evident also not just in the fact that I think we need to expand. If we're not going to expand to, if SIFTD's not going to expand to other genres or to other ideas like that, if other forms of entertainment, there needs to be more curators, period, at the end of the day, because as of right now, there's this kind of not steady block of content, despite the fact that there is a pretty steady block of content, steady stream of content from the web itself. And I understand right now that is because of how the curators, who they have, and that people are sleeping and people have jobs and people have lives and things like that. But you need people to cover essentially every shift. You need at least one curator that can, one or two curators that can just cover those gaps. So that way, instead of looking at it every day and waiting till noon or 3 o'clock really to see any content updated or anything like that, at least for me, I'm on the East Coast, there's this, stretch of time where nothing gets updated, and then there's no content whatsoever, but yet sites are updating constantly. I mean, some sites won't update during the weekend, some sites won't update at night, whatever, but generally speaking, there is a pretty steady stream of content coming from the web, and there's gaps in the way SIFTD does it. And I think in order to be a premium product where people are paying, I really think that needs to happen. I really think that they need to hire more people or ask for volunteers. I'm sure there's people who are willing to cover those gaps if it means dedicating an hour or two a day, or even 30 minutes a day, just to make sure that they get that content through the day. Whether you give them a t-shirt or are willing to pay them, or whatever you can do to get them to do that, it is something that is necessary. You need to reach out to people. SIFTD needs to get more curators who are putting out a more steady stream of content the way the internet works, before I think people are going to actually look at it and take it seriously. And I think that's one reason. I mean, people have commented on this before as far as why they've left the site or why they don't really like the site that much, because of the fact that there are these huge gaps where it just stops all of a sudden. And you don't need as many curators during the weekend, because that's when there's not that much content. A lot of sites take breaks, but during the week especially, there's almost a non-stop stream, and that's something that needs to be covered by SIFTD, I think, before anybody is really going to be willing to pay a price to actually join the site. So those are my thoughts on SIFTD.net and what the site really needs to do to survive now, and especially because they've come out and pretty much said that it is do or die at this point. I really think that these options need to be considered seriously in order for the site to get anywhere and to actually continue and to not fold, because I don't want to see it go anywhere. I really truly appreciate this community and to appreciate the site, and even without the community, I appreciate the technology behind the site itself and what it does and what it offers me. I think it's more than enough to allow me to contribute and feel like I'm actually getting something out of it. So I really don't want to see the site close down. I don't want to see it go anywhere. I don't want to see anything happen to it. I don't want to see it bought by anybody, because I don't think that anybody else is really going to have the vision that Shane does and going to have the passion that he does. And I worry about something like that happening, much like what happened with game trailers after he left. And that's kind of my reasoning behind this and why I'm kind of pushing it and promoting it. But let me know what you have to think in the comments down below. I want to hear, what can the site do to save itself? What do you think? Have you visited this site? What issues do you have with it? Have you even heard of SIFTD.net? Just let me know, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more.